we are here. We are live with our first video podcast. I am just thrilled that we have pulled this off. My name is Caroline Bock, and I'm the co-president and editor at the Washington Writers Publishing House. And I am here today to talk about America's future and to talk about our small press, the Washington Writers Publishing House, which has been around 50 years, doing some new things, including WWPH TALKS. So I'm here with our co-president and our poetry editor, Jona Colson. Jona, welcome.
Yes,
And
thank you. Welcome again, everyone. We're very happy to be here with you. Again, my name's Jona Colson. I am the co-president and poetry editor at Washington Writers Publishing House. And as Carolyn said, we're here to dive a little deeper into America's Future, which was a book that came out a few months ago. And we're here with two authors from the anthology, Diana Rojas, who is a novelist and has a wonderful essay in this collection, and the poet and literary activist Dwayne Lawson-Brown. So welcome to you both. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
yes. And Jona, we should share that America's Future Poetry and Prose in Response to Tomorrow, while it came out a few months ago, is really our landmark anthology. We did it for our 50th anniversary. We decided today to really dive deeper into these two pieces because they are thoughtful, they are searing, they are no holds barred pieces. We have over 170 writers, 576 pages. These two pieces really struck me as ones that we needed to take a moment to talk about. Don't you think?
I think so. Absolutely. And so we should get started with our first writer, Dwayne Lawson-Brown. So Dwayne Lawson-Brown is a father, a poet, a playwright, and crochet kingpin. A proud DC native, Dwayne has served their hometown community for their entire adult life through HIV prevention education, museum education, and advocacy, and informing artists of funding opportunities through the DC Commission on the Arts and Humanities. Artistically, Dwayne is a former co-host of Spit That, the longest-running open mic in Washington, D.C., and has performed and hosted at the Kennedy Center, Woolly Mammoth Theater, and the Kagan. Dwayne has penned 3 poetry collections, most recently Breaking the Blank, which he co-authored with Rebecca Bishop Hall. Welcome, Dwayne. We would love to hear your piece in America's Future, which is called An Exercise in Syntax.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'll actually be reading directly from the collection. So you can follow along if you have your copy. It's on page 89. An exercise in syntax. I owe back taxes. The government is making me pay back taxes. The federal government is pressing me out about my back taxes. The federal government is demanding that I pay from the money I earn working for the Smithsonian. The federal government, which provides the funds for the work I performed via the Smithsonian, is demanding that I pay back taxes from those aforementioned funds. The federal government, which covers a large footprint in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, is demanding that I pay back taxes from the funds that I earned via the Smithsonian, which they also fund. The federal government, which refuses to acknowledge the constitutional rights of residents of Washington, D.C., myself included, demand that I pay out of my hard-earned wages made during the time frame I performed outreach for the Anacostia Community Museum, an under-resourced Smithsonian site, which is also funded by the federal government. The federal government, who backpedals on penalties for those who stormed the Capitol grounds but chased a teenage Dwayne for rollerblading in a public area, demands I pay back taxes while not acknowledging my constitutional rights as a U.S. citizen, living in the District of Columbia, working for the under-resourced Smithsonian Anacostia Community Museum, which happens to be funded by the federal government. The United States federal government, which my mother has served for over 30 years as a patent clerk, demands that I, Dwayne Lawson-Brown, render taxes from the wages I earn providing outreach in the underserved and disenfranchised community for the Smithsonian Anacostia Community Museum, an under-resourced cultural center funded by the federal government so that they can make weapons. The United States of America federal government, that my great-grandfather died fighting for in World War II, demands that I pay out of the funds I should be using to pay my son's tuition so that they can sell bombs to a country that is blowing up hospitals. The United States of America wants to tax me, a single father, working hard to co-parent and raise a Black genderqueer teen in a society that hates us so that they can support a war on terror that violates international laws by bombing hospitals and airstriking civilians along the Gaza Strip. The United States of America wants me to pay for bombs they will sell to murderers while my community goes to war with itself over money to pay bills, like the aforementioned back taxes. The United States of America is forcing me, a Washington, D.C. native, who for the entirety of their life has never had proper representation in Congress or the Senate, to choose between my son's tuition, my mortgage, and groceries so that I can fork over back taxes that will be used to make bombs and surveillance drones and body armor, which will be sold to an occupying military force that is killing Palestinian civilians. And the world is watching as the innocent pay the cost in flesh and the rich remain untouched. The United States wants me to pay, but the price is too fucking high.
Thank you, Dwayne, so much for that poem. So having lived in DC for 20 years myself, I think it's a very DC specific poem, but at the same time, it really, of course, opens it up to sort of every U.S. citizen. And I guess, I have lots of questions, but my first question would be, had you written this poem before we kind of got the prompts going for America's Future? Was it already there? Was it already coming together? Or were some of the prompts that we offered for the anthology gave you more of a genesis?
So this piece was already bubbling for me. It's true. It's very autobiographical. And so I've been wanting to get this off my chest and try to connect the dots between how there are many that are not paying taxes, or they find the loopholes, they know the system and work the system so that it benefits them, while also acknowledging where some of our tax dollars go and how that all connects back to the disenfranchised, the issues that disenfranchised folks face within DC and across the country. How it's all connected really was where that came from. And so when I saw the prompt, I was like, this is time. Now I get to write it, and hopefully there'll be a home for it, which I am very grateful for.
Caroline.
Yeah. I read along as you were reading, Dwayne. I love your energy, and I'm a prose writer, I'm a novelist. I love these long lines, but then we get to the end of this poem, and I think Jona and I even debated, is this a poem? Is this prose? Because of the long lines. And I said, look at those lines at the end, and the world is watching. It's almost a haiku, as the innocent pay the cost in flesh and the rich remain untouched. Boom, 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 breaks up into these short lines. I was wondering, as a advice from a poet to a prose writer, what made you change and go there at the end to these 6 powerful lines. I mean, ending, is it too fucking high? Oh my God. You're asking the question all of us are thinking right now. But how did you get there?
So think about a marathon, right? The idea is that in the marathon, you're pacing yourself out throughout this entire process so that you can make it across the finish line. And I looked at the idea of how folks use syntax and rearrange words so that we can get to a deeper meaning or greater understanding of the statement. And so the very beginning is pretty blanket. I owe taxes, right? And that's something that seems pretty universal. There are two things that are gonna be no matter what, like you pay taxes and you die, right? But then we get to a deeper layer and it's exhausting, right? We get into understanding like the context of my family has been paying in this country for our entire lives in different ways. My great grandfather paid the price with his life. My mother has been paying the price her majority of her life with the federal government. I've been paying since I was 14 and started working a job and paying taxes and this and a third. But very rarely do we get a say on where that goes. And so the middle feels like the marathon and the running and the exhaust. And at the end, the idea is that you are exhausted and the language should be as simple as what you need to say. And the price is just too high. We can't continue. We as a community can't continue to keep paying these prices. And you can see that parallel in the way that we see news coverage and folks get exhausted and we just want the sound bites, we just want the clips. And that's kind of reflected in the work as well.
Right. The spareness, right, Jona?
And just maybe another quick, so you talked about the syntax. So could you explain maybe how the title's relating to the rest of the piece? Because it's called the exercise in syntax. So how do you see the title and the body of the poem?
Indeed. So I also took the challenge of playing with syntax. So how can I say the same thing in multiple ways? So I owe taxes. Well, who do I owe taxes to? I owe taxes to the federal government. Okay, how can I say the federal government? The United States federal government, the United States of America federal government. And just playing with that over and over again, and then exchanging all of the factors that lead to me needing to pay these taxes and what the actual cost is for the things that are happening with our tax dollars. I then also love the word syntax and how for me it is a sin to be taxed this much. And it's not just the taxes, it's the penalties, it's the snowballing of things, it's the lack of information, and there's so much more to it. But yeah, that's how the poem and the title relate.
It just clicked in. I cannot believe sin act. Why did I not? Thank you, Dwayne.
That's why we have to dig deeper into some works. And Dwayne is layers and layers of deepness, generations, as he said, unfortunately, but fortunate for us. I think we're going to have a short break. This is part of our new video podcast format. You're going to learn something about the Washington Writers Publishing House, especially if you're a writer. And then we're going to come back, hear from Diana Rojas, who also talks about the taxes being too damn high in her own way. So we'll be right back after this short message. welcome back. I'm Caroline Bock, co-president of the Washington Writers Publishing House, here with Jona Colson, the other co-president, and two amazing writers, Diana Rojas and Dwayne Lawson-Brown. We are going to hear from Diana next. But I do, just commenting on our own message, I do hope all the writers out there from DC, Maryland, and Virginia who have a manuscript think of submitting to us. We are opening our manuscripts April 1st, our manuscript contest, and we are eager to read your work, your poetry, fiction, and nonfiction. Diana Rojas, thank you for coming today. Let me just share a little bit about your background. She's the author of an amazing novel, Litany of Saints, a triptych from Arte Publico Press. And even more exciting, she has a new novel coming out later this year, They Hold Grudges. I can't wait to read it. And a children's book, Clara's Big Green Coat. And she is a former journalist. Her essays have appeared in Grit and Gravity, the Washington Independent Review of Books, Latino News Network, many, many other places. She is now on the board of directors of the Penn Faulkner Foundation. And as she says, sort of echoing what we heard from Dwayne, she lives taxed and unrepresented in Washington, D.C. And she is here with her essay, Ivanka Trump, the Traitor. If you're reading along in America's Future, which is our big anthology, she wrote one of the most searing, most no-hold-bars essays. And I'm going to hand it to her to share some of it, and then we'll come back and talk with her, go deeper with her. Diana.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Jona. I'm just going to give you a little bit of background before when Trump took office this year. Oh God, it was last year. Long year. My son, I told my son I was checking out, that I had no energy, and very angry. He said, "You cannot check out." And so I reminisce about the first Trump sentence that we had, and I had lots of plans during that sentence to do something to change, and one of them was to have a face-off with Ivanka Trump, call her, and that would lead to a change of heart and affect a snowball effect that would benefit us all. So I pick up this essay. I think I'm going to meet Ivanka Trump and be able to carry the plan. I turned and faced the children, and holding my dog's leash across the front of my shirt to cover their grandpa's caricature, it cleared my throat, which was suddenly dry. And then, after all the planning, the practice, all the anticipation, all the worry, I met the moment. With a friendly smile on my face that one reserves for children, I chirped, "My doggie says hi back." Anna let go of my arm and exhaled a sigh of relief. The daughter, now a teenager, and her mother, Ivanka Trump, were twinned in red wool coats at the National Prayer Service a day after her grandfather's second inauguration on a cold day in January 2025. The day before he was sworn in, she borrowed her mother's black and white houndstooth coat, which Ivanka had worn during her stint as an advisor to the presidential father in his first term. "Like mother, like daughter," Ola magazine reported. "I just don't have it in me this time. I think the great American experiment is failing," I told my son. "I can't be bothered to pay attention anymore." But I lied. I was paying some attention. I was bitter at the reporting about Ivanka's daughter's clothes at the Trump II inauguration. I had stared at the pictures of the new oligarchy standing among the assembled Trumps, the children now grown into miniature versions of their parents. I've been accused of being naive many times. I believed in the goodness of humans. I still want to believe in the inherent goodness of humans. I see the next generation gearing up to take the wheel, and I feel a bit uncertain in the back seat. Are the children indeed innocents? I'm going to stop it there.
Wow. Are the children indeed innocents? I'm wondering, Diana, the same thing Jona asked Dwayne. Did you write to one of our prompts, or were you outside Ivanka Trump's house just waiting for this essay to appear for you? And then we showed up.
I mean, it took many, many walks in front of Ivanka Trump's house to finally get human life out there that wasn't Secret Service. So, yes, I had written this in my head. And I was laughing at myself, really, because I mean, my great idea is a t-shirt and yelling traitor, and this is how I'm going to change the world. And then your prompt came along, and I had a conversation with my son that was a little heartbreaking, because I really didn't know what to do this time. I didn't even have a dumb idea. And it all came together there.
Yeah, I mean, it really did. And everybody has to read this entire essay. It opens with this moment where your son's questioning you, because you really do believe in the American experiment. You really do believe that the next generation should believe in the American dream. Am I reading this essay right? That seems to be the heart of the tension. Not just the fact that at this moment we're at a difficult time, challenging times for some of
No,
us.
I really believe in the American dream. I totally believe in the American dream. And my version of the American dream is that each generation is supposed to improve on the last. And even though I'm making fun of myself and I'm talking about coats and this child who I don't think that this generation of the new oligarchy is improving on previous generations. And so I find it heartbreaking. However, when I talk to my son and other young people, I do feel like, okay, I'm just going to hand it to them. They seem to also believe in the American dream like I do, and maybe I should just back off and let them take over. I'm conflicted every day of my life.
Oh, I have to say, I just got chills, honestly, because I have also a 20-year-old daughter who is like, we need to step up and we need to, but I don't know how, I don't know. I almost feel like this essay gives some hints that even the small things matter. And that's what I say to my daughter, that the small things matter. I mean, we can't, but I feel your the tension and drive in this piece, and I love the image of you standing there batting your fist in the air. I don't know, Jona, what's your thoughts for Diana?
Well, I loved reading this essay. I think it just, besides from being really beautifully written, it's just really, really powerful, and you can feel the tension. And again, having lived in DC for 20 years, I can sense that the fatigue as well, like you've been talking about, just sort of like, what can I do? What are some options? And I think we're not sure. We don't know, something new happens every day. And like, how do we respond to these? And I think we do get like a sense of, fatigue. And not quite sure what to do. And please feel free to speak to that. But I have a dog. So how do you see the dogs? That's a really, because you started there at that moment, right? So it's supposed to be a moment of tension. But we have the doggy. So how would you see the doggies as an extension of well, what? I don't mean, what do you think?
Well, so sometimes I fantasize about, wouldn't it be great to be a dog and the hardest thing about your day is you weren't pet enough, or your food bowl wasn't full enough? I mean, it's such a simple life. And so the dogs, meaning also my dog is not really friendly. She doesn't like other people's dogs. So she wouldn't have ever said hi to this fluffy little white thing. But I was across the street, so I probably should have let her go and let her attack, but I would never do that. And therein lies the rub, right? Like, I would never do that. I would never attack anybody. I'm not a dog. The dogs they don't know differently, and I'm not a dog. And when I see this little white fluffy thing, which I couldn't be mean, even though in my heart of hearts, I thought, this is my chance. I just couldn't be mean. I couldn't let my dog be mean. We're not animals. And which is why I used the dogs. It was also the only interaction I had with humans outside of Ivanka Trump's house. But I used the dogs because they're innocent. The children, I don't know. I have some questions about their innocence. The dogs are truly innocent. Her dog and my dog had nothing to do with this. They don't know anything. They're just animals. But we're not. And so it is symbolic that my dog was with me. But it's a really good prop for the essay, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it comes kind of in the middle, and it breaks the tension in a way, but also reminds us, that we all are human and we have doggies who are innocent and have that. So, yeah, it's a beautiful piece. Caroline, do you have another question about that? I just saw a response.
I mean, I also, no, I'm agreeing with you that, sometimes as writers, we need a way into an essay that we've been wanting to write, because this isn't about the dogs. This is about social justice. This is about, as you keep saying, an oligarchy. This is about how a mother responds to her child about what is next. But as writers, we need to have it grounded, and you did that so well. And you need to have a way in that is not scary, right? Relatable, empathetic.
Well, in that anyone can relate to being obsessed, calling Ivanka Trump a traitor. Yes, relatable. But I think we all had these obsessions at how we could make a difference, be it marching or calling Ivanka Trump a traitor. This opportunity to write an essay that could highlight a lot of the little things we think might make a difference and the disappointment we feel when, it didn't move the needle. That for me was a gift from Washington writers to be able to put it down on paper.
Well,
to be able to say, to admit that we're vulnerable too. As you say at the end, I don't have a plan at this time. I don't even have a new walking route. I have nowhere to go. I am an American. This is my country. And, and now to quote Dwayne, and the taxes are too fucking high and they're going for all the wrong things. And I think we need to take a break. But I love this essay, and I'm so glad you submitted it. So we will be right back after another very short message, actually from a fellow press in the Washington Writers Publishing, Washington Writers area. We'll be right back.
In Heaven Has No Ground, Andronikova writes a text that is infused in a sense of urgency, with the chaos of being a traveler in an unknown land, as if cut and pasted from leaflets of paper scribbled on a log, a bench, a cafe counter, a thigh. Its story is told straight, in a raw and unfiltered form, coming from the hand of the writer directly to the eye of the reader.
Welcome back, everyone. Check out Plum and Press. It's totally amazing. So we're here again with Dwayne Lawson-Brown and novelist Dana Rojas. My name is Jona Colson, co-president of the Washington Writers Publishing House, and I'm here with my amazing co-president, Caroline Bock. And so to sort of talk about this last segment that we have, and we're diving deeper into our landmark anthology again called America's Future, which was published in September of last year, and Diana and Dwayne are both featured in the anthology. So I guess I have a really large question, which of course can have multiple answers, but it's kind of is a lot to what the title of our anthology speaks to, right? America's Future. And kind of going off of what we were just talking about with Diana and with Dwayne. But as we all keep writing and keep thinking about the future, what is the future? Maybe what's the future in a sense of continuing this conversation, right? I'm sure many of us don't know, or we can imagine. We've seen movies, we've read other things, but maybe. And Dwayne, why don't you start? Like, how do you see the future, or the future that we can keep writing as we move forward?
Huge question.
Yeah.
I I think I think the first thing we need to do is envision a future. And right now, it can feel very difficult to envision a future because so much is happening in our present. So I've been finding myself writing a lot about where I am in the present, what matters to me most within this present time. How do we preserve and protect things that matter to us in this present time? And then in protecting the things in our present, we then get to build that future. So I think right now, uh, for me, it's really about trying to document our present to prove that we were here, that we exist, that we are surviving, that people are fighting back, um, so that we can make it to a future that is worth being in, and being able to envision that future.
That's a beautiful
Mhm.
answer. Beautiful answer.
Yeah.
To be able
Yeah.
to kind of document where we are now so we can look back and say, wow, we survived in
Mhm.
some. Diana, what do you think?
I mean, I think the future is vague, and I wish I had Dwayne's wherewithal to document what's going on. And I've actually retreated almost into myself. This essay was the first of about 12 that I wrote last year, where I examine facets of myself. So I've gone internal. I feel like if I can understand what makes me tick, maybe I can do something um, to affect change. But um, I, I'm a little hopeless. I know that sounds. I know that sounds admit, but I'm hopeless, and I'm speaking to you from Europe right now, and I keep thinking, why don't I just leave? And the truth is, one can't just leave. So, to Dwayne's point, you know, we need to witness. We need to say, yeah, this is what's happening, and maybe nothing I do will get us to the position we want to be in. But at least 20 years from now, maybe something I write, people understand a little bit more of where we were in this situation. And what happens in 20 years? I have the foggiest. I have no idea. I can't even imagine.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think, and this is to something we each wrote, just by writing and finding community and realizing you are not alone. You are not the only voice grappling with this. You bring others into the struggle. That's how I feel. And that's what I hope. I know Jona and I hope through a number of events we're planning with the press in the summer, this summer, that we are able to say that to people in person.
Mhm.
But Diana, you addressed it directly. You both have said in different ways, you're exhausted. How do you get past that lack of energy if you're writing to witness, if you're writing to document, if you're writing to understand what's going on yourself? The act of writing, just physically every day saying, I'm going to put pen to paper, I mean, that's an act of resistance to what I think larger forces would have us do nothing, to be paralyzed.
Yeah. I mean, I was a journalist at one point in my life, and that was it was my job to document what was going on and what was happening contemporaneously. Now more dedicated to fiction. And honestly, I find that in writing fiction, maybe I have freed myself more to bear witness and to find that community, because I'm freer. I am freer to imagine futures. I'm freer to imagine presents that don't exist, to imagine how people might act or react. And that's been helpful, because imagination breeds ideas, and if I'm just reporting on what's happening on the ground, I would probably be more hopeless than I am right now, because I can imagine that maybe if this and that happens, we'll come out at a place that we're all happy with or happier with. So yes, in writing, in fiction, I have found my people, my community, people who are as in with their heads in the clouds as I am, imagining different worlds, different people, different ideas.
Yeah. And Dwayne, I love that. And Dwayne, how do you renew yourself? I mean, I love your crochet. I love that. I love that you're an activist in the community. We haven't talked a lot about that because here you're a poet with us. But you have many, many selves, my friend. You are
Yeah,
multitude.
on it. Thank you. I get refueled by being in spaces like this, being in community. Just like Diana mentioned, when you find your community, whatever that community may be, you then feel freer. You have that freedom to explore, imagine, and envision. And for me, I sing a lot of karaoke, um, and just being in random spaces doing random things refuels me so that I can continue the fight, right? It can't just be down with insert injustice here your entire life, because that's just surviving. Um, we have to live at some point. We have to be able to thrive. And
Right.
so, you know, you'll catch me at a march or a rally, not as often as I used to be, because I'm getting older. And as we said earlier, there is a need to pass the baton, but there's also finding ways to like refuel so that you can show up in the ways that you can, by donating to
Yeah.
causes, by cooking a meal for folks, by hugging somebody that's mourning. Just random acts of kindness mean a lot in this current world. So, yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with all of that, with what both of you said. I think finding community and, events that we have coming up are really, kind of really speak to that. We have a new anthology coming out soon. I'll let Caroline say that, which we hope is gonna, bring us together and even more so and enrich it. So I really appreciate those answers.
I don't know. We may have to add karaoke, though, Jona.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe some karaoke in
Part.
there.
I think we're missing. But I think that you do so much with your writing, both of you, to both inspire, but also to teach and pass the baton. I mean, I think we are looking at the next generation, and we want to bring them into the literary world and have them understand that this is a place their voice counts. That's why, we did things like America's Future, right? It has probably over a dozen writers who have been published for the first time were published with us, and so we're always thinking of ways to do both, to nourish our the great writers that you are, talk to the next generation, to do new things. Jona mentioned we have a new mini anthology coming up called Capital Love, and it really looks at love as an antidote to political domination. Now, you two are not in it because we really tried to have some new writers in it. we love you both. But we are always looking to also feature new writers, and that will be out this May, and we will do a whole series of events. But we want you back with us. We want you reading with us. We want you in our community. You out there in the audience, and you, Diana and Dwayne, because you are just fantastic. You speak truth to power. You do it in a beautiful, meaningful, moving ways. I think, Jona, I think we had a great first pilot with our WWPH talks.
Absolutely. This was great. Wonderful. I learned a lot, and we'll hopefully keep doing these and keep diving deeper.
Right, and keep reading these writers. Diana with her new novel coming out this year, Dwayne with his poetry, and we will be reading you and watching you. Thank you both for joining us today.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'd
thank
like
you
to
for
thank
having
you
me. It's a
too.
joy.
Yes.
And
Roman is back, and that is Roman, our producer. So I think we are wrapped, right, Roman? I want to make sure our mics are live, so we want to keep smiling.
Yeah, we are wrapped. Thank you so much for participating. And this was an experimental version. The issues. We have a question from the audience. Where do we find the anthology?
Oh, okay. We find the anthology America's Future everywhere books are sold. It is in paperback, trade paperback, and it's an ebook. And if you go to our website, www.washingtonwriters.org, and buy it from us directly. Thank you, my friends. You can buy it from us directly. And we also have special discounts for educators. People are starting to use it in the classroom, which is exciting. And so please look for it, everywhere books are sold. Look for it at our website, which is at the best price possible. And please stay in touch with us. We have a little newsletter, our little lit magazine called WWPH Writes, and we are open for submissions, and we pay contributors.
Yes.
And
also,
we are.
Yeah, check us out at the local festivals. We're all, the local festivals in DC, in Maryland. We're going to be at Gaithersburg. We'll be at Pride. Of course, AWP is coming out, and in the fall we'll have events. So please come and join us and say hello.
Okay, thank you.
Are we good?
Okay, just a moment. One second.